open mic. A dark-haired white girl with tattoos and piercings raps, "Move, bitch," like she's black. Except she doesn't say the N-word, so that throws her rhythm off. We clap along anyway. Along the near corridor that is 5 Points Coffee and Spice, the bittersweet aroma of roasted Arabica mingles with the Thai tang of sriracha buffalo wings. The young woman by the back room shifts her hips and as she nears the end of her rap and skips an F word. Not the fucks. She hits those and the B word with urgency. Get out the way, bitch. Get out the way. No, it's the old slur for gay. A decade has passed since Ludacris wrote the song. There's a brother in the White House, and some of us are still pinching ourselves. The next guy up on open mic shuffles things around, hooking the amp to his acoustic guitar. Its wood gleams and a painted feather sticks out from under his keys. He's a scruffy-bearded young regular by the name of Max. Longish light hair falls across his forehead to screen his most distinctive feature, a permanently closed eye. In his black tee over jeans, he could be the badass hipster, but he's on the tubby side. And when he speaks, he mumbles and stammers. He doesn't do vocals, just blues and folk rock progressions that are uneven and not easily identifiable. Still, the guitar has a warm tone and the progressions are ambitious, incorporating bass lines behind the chords and lead riffs above them. All a bit rough, but everyone likes the soft-spoken youngster, and we applaud in anticipation of his mute acknowledgement. The customer in charge of today's sign-up sheet has to go look for the next performer, who has probably stepped out onto Lomax for a smoke. Approaching the entrance, he stops in his tracks to stare up at a figure that has to stoop through. It's the only 7-footer any of us is likely to run into. Surreal and somehow heartening to see Henri's shoulders float above the heads of other customers as he moves through them, smiling and nodding toward the other brown face in the room. Parvez, he says, in his thick voice, dropping a huge hand on my shoulder. I'm decades older than him, and not far short of 6 feet. But I feel like a child angling his face upward. How are you? Hey, Henri. I lift my voice too, against the buzz. What's happening? Looking eager and happy to tell me, he launches into a detailed account. His expressiveness is magnetic. And as always, I lean in attentively. But, as always, I'm unable to decipher every 5th word, which is often mangled or a substitute that doesn't make sense. I can't follow the logic of first his longer sentences and then the entire thread. I can tell it's clear in his head. Yet what's pouring out of his mouth is a fascinating jumble that I cannot recreate. All along, I'm listening for keywords and phrases to which to nod and make vaguely comprehending noises. My ability to converse in French, let alone Kinyarwanda, is non-existent, so I admire Henri for his courage in English. Courage in general. I've never asked whether he's Tutsi or Hutu, but I have gathered that his family came to the States by way of Burundi, under some form of political asylum. They spoke no English. They could carry little. In Rwanda, he was an apprentice accountant. Here, he's a Wendy's cashier. His journey out into the world must feel like in some ways he's going backward. Direction is a topic on many a night here, specifically what the future might hold. Not only for each of us, but for 5 Points and the coffee shop. We are a varied clientele. Students, veterans, cyclists, bikers, cops, artists, cops who are artists, techies, stand-up comedians, techies who are stand-ups, even a resident magician. But there's a general fear of gentrification. Rumors abound of landlords ratcheting up rents following the Great Recession to push out grungy hipster hangouts and make room for more upscale or yuppie establishments. The shop's owner, Alva, sporting a yellowish goatee and elongated earlobes, says people should support a local independent business over a national franchise like Starbucks. I live in the new apartments across from Starbucks, which makes me part of the gentrification. When convenience takes me there, I feel like a trader. Cozy Tea, a British Indian place in 5 Points, closes at 4. So at least I don't have to choose between local and global. It's both when you think about it. Like me. Like Henri. Seen from the inside, 5 Points Coffee and Spice could be a closed system, independent of and impervious to external forces. Nothing much changes, or so it seems. Max plays open mic after open mic, not just solo. He accompanies singers on his feathered guitar and sits in on group performances, but he never sings and barely says a word. Occasionally, a loose-limbed giant with a slight limp obscures my line of vision. Henri pours his latest into my attentive ear, and I fail to follow. Undaunted, he rambles on. On the first Friday one month, we all packed a little tighter. 5 Points celebrates the start of the month in streets lined with buskers. The guitar case is open for tips. Folk and bluegrass trios harmonize at the corners. A whiff of weed drifts across the entrance to Lomax Lodge, out of which heavy metal roars. Inside the coffee shop, open mic has hit a boisterous Irish vein. A guitarist with a beret and a Gaelic-sounding name like Colin or Conan or Connor announces an original and shouts its refrain, "Fuck the British." Presumably inspired, Katie, a regular who narrowly clears the little person bar, sings her own original and gets us to join in on a 2-word chorus. Guys suck. Max comes on, multicolored wristbands on both arms, and settles into an extended blues improvisation. The quiet change-up allows talk to resume. The LARPers, or live-action role players in medieval costumes, are buzzing about something. Eventually, the cyclists stop cussing the city for its biking infrastructure, or lack of much, and tune into the LARPers. Mouths open wide. Hands go to the side of heads. I'm thinking Max sounds pretty good tonight, like all his playing is starting to pay off. When cries of dismay counterpoint some nifty chord progressions. Max trails off, confused, his one open eye startled. "What's going on?" he says into the mic. Like the 4 non-blondes, except he doesn't shout it. More like a Marvin Gaye, "What's going on?" Max may never have shouted a question in his life. The people who answer him without a mic sound louder and unsettled. The LARPers have been told they will not be able to meet here next month. It's official. Our refuge from the world, which has prided itself on staying open to 3 a.m. night after night, year after year, will shut down forever. There's no such thing as a perfect closed system, unless it's the universe. Even that is a maybe. My cappuccino cools off as I fight a sense of disorientation. Looking around, I spot a beautiful, close-cropped warrior head, a foot above the rest, being shaken in disbelief. Instinctively, I drift toward Henri. He looms like some central fount of life, like a huge queen bee from whom all the swarming bees in the hive are descended. "Hey, Henri," I say, throwing my palms apart. "No more coffee and spice." Parvez, shoulders at my eye level shrug. "Crazy, man. This is my new home. You know? Now my new home is gone." "I know, man. I think we're all feeling like that." At a nearby table, our resident magician, who is a Desert Storm veteran, artfully reveals the right card to a pretty young woman. She puts her hands to her face and exclaims in astonishment, as if realizing this may be his last bit of magic in here. The unshaven vet flips his mark pack over to show her the patterns. "So what have you been up to?" I say. Henri nods. "I play a lot of football. It is my team. I started. I am the goalie, you know." He spreads his arms, his fingertips just short of the counter and the rough brick wall covered in artwork. Hard to imagine the ball getting past that wingspan. It is not as good as in Kigali, because my leg is injured. He limps to demonstrate. My doctor tells me it will be better. But I must be careful. He grins. I don't tell him I play football. I'm not a forward running on the field, you know? I tell him I study very hard for my license. Then one day I tell my boss, his job is not good for me. I am an accountant, Parvez. You know? One day he will come to me for his accounts. Awesome. My mood lifts. But there's something going on that, in all the confusion, I can't pin down. I look at Henri and do a double take. He has that head laid back, watching me with a slight smile that blends mischief and anticipation. And suddenly, my head is tingling, my eyes are bulging, my mouth is opening, and I'm shouting above the hubbub. Henri, I can follow everything you're saying. Every bit of your English makes sense now. Every little word. The smile goes wide. His nod is cocky. He flourishes an acknowledgement. This is one more language, Parvez. I have many. Sure, but you're too old to just sponge it up like kids can. You still went at it, and for years you just let your tongue go, no matter how it came out. No fear. He's sober now, head laid back again, eyes dark, appraising me. It is not a thing to fear. It is only hearing, talking, talking small things, you know? But what I see in Kigali, I don't talk. Those things, I will never talk. Unspeakable things float in the depths of those eyes, and I don't ask. People around us start to spill out into the street. It's time for the fire show on First Fridays. Lomax is blocked off, and the occasional car sent around it, honking. The torches take a while to light in the October night chill. Then they burn fiercely, and the performers swing them in great fiery circles through the dark. They march back and forth as Alva, the ringmaster, cracks a bullwhip thrice his body length. Eventually, the circles of fire dim for the last time. 5 Points Coffee and Spice is flamed out. That's not the end of the story, especially not the story of Max, but I'll stop the reading there. Thank you.